It's the Rule of
And
Nerds.
today we're talking all about the final episode of Game of Thrones Season 7.
All right, so let's take it by section because there were so many things that happened, and let's talk about it.
Okay, let's start with where it begins,
Yes.
where the episode begins. Of course, we all knew coming into this episode that there was going to be a negotiation for a truce between the forces of Daenerys Targaryen and Jon Snow, and of course the opposite side led by Cersei Lannister.
Yes, and since season one, this is possibly the most characters in one scene
Yes.
that we have seen. So
The
usually
most characters with names.
with names.
Please.
I mean, like, we started off with the complete cast in Winterfell, and then everyone was just rent asunder. Everyone was
Yes.
thrown in different parts of the of the world, and this is the first time that we've actually seen a lot of characters back together or meeting for the first time.
Yeah, and this is what we mentioned earlier in the season, where you kind of know things are getting real now.
Yes.
Because you're putting all of the major characters together.
And I guess most awaited is the whole, of course, Cersei and Jon Snow have seen each other very quickly in Winterfell.
Yeah.
But I guess what everyone was really looking forward to was the celebrity death match between Cersei and Daenerys.
Yes.
Because this is the first time they're seeing each other, period.
But also, aside from that specific pairing, you really get to see a lot of reunions in
Yes,
this one.
definitely.
Some friends or love interests,
Mm-hmm.
kind of, that have spent time earlier in the series together, but have since gone opposite ways. But now they come together for this big negotiation scene. So we get to see pairings like Jaime and Brienne.
Tyrion and Podrick.
Yes, Tyrion, Pod, and Bronn.
I even
whole group.
forgot that they were originally the squire of Tyrion.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting. to see.
Brienne and the Hound, who had this famous battle, of course, and it's funny because their interaction here revolved around Arya Stark, and
Very heartwarming.
yeah, and they were kind of acting like proud parents
Exactly.
there, talking about how good Arya has become as a fighter.
And of course, how can we forget? Well, the closest we've ever gotten to Clegane Bowl.
Clegane Bowl.
It's not happening yet, but there was before anyone spoke a word during the negotiation. We had this little tense moment between the two brothers.
Yeah, I don't even think that was really the Hound talking to the Mountain.
Yes.
It was the showrunners talking to us fans,
Yes, like,
letting us know it's
Don't worry,
gonna happen.
It's going to happen.
It's gonna happen. So what Sander really said, the exact line there was, he told Gregor that you know what's coming for you. You've always known. If that is not confirmation that it's happening, I don't know what is.
It's basically the showrunners telling us, it's going to happen. All right, and also, we won't go into the full details.
Yeah.
Just basically our reactions. I really felt that the whole Dragon Pit scene was really nerve wracking. I mean, I've read a lot of negative reviews
Yeah.
about it, but for me, just as pure cinema.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was at the edge of my seat, and technically nothing was happening, but all that nothing for me was nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
It was the whole suspense of what is going to happen. Is there
Yeah.
going to be an ambush? Is there going to be an assassination? Are things going to be... I love how they built the suspense. I mean, maybe we'll touch on this later about how the weaknesses of the narrative of Game of Thrones, but just as far as building suspense was, I think the Dragon Pit really delivered. And you didn't know what was going to happen next. You had this feeling of foreboding that, crap, something big is going to go down and it's not going to be pretty.
And it's actually strange how uneventful it turned out to be.
Yeah.
Because
Exactly.
knowing that as mad a queen as Cersei is right now, she is capable of blowing up the Sept of Baelor, right? So you would think that bringing together all of her enemies in one specific place like that she had something up her sleeve. Turned out later on that she did have a little something, but we can get to that later.
But in as much as you had Daenerys, you had Jon Snow, you had Tyrion on one side, I was afraid for them.
Yeah.
I was scared to see Cersei enter the Dragon Pit, and when
Yeah.
she did, I was really I was scared. It was
Yeah.
so I love how they were able to bring in the suspense
Yeah.
for the Dragon Pit, and it didn't feel like lame, even
Yeah.
though technically nothing happened. I love the suspense.
I was scared for Drogon because I was expecting
yes.
the dragon pit to be
I know.
equipped with those scorpions,
Right?
the huge ass crossbows. So basically, what happens is that they show Cersei the white that they captured, and then now that the opposite side knows that the threat is real, the threat of the White Walkers and the dead, the side of the dead is real. They're negotiating this truce. So no attacking first. And surprisingly, Cersei is kind of level-headed about this.
A little bit receptive.
The only thing that she wanted in return was to have Jon Snow, King in the North, to make a promise not to take up arms against the crown.
Exactly.
And Jon Snow, in what may be his Ned Starkiest moment on the show yet, he cannot tell a lie.
Yeah.
Instead of negotiating further or anything, he says that I can't do that. I've already pledged myself to Daenerys. And that ends that shuts down negotiations.
Which is the first time that he's actually saying it out loud.
Yes.
Yeah, in front of everyone. Like, he's never said that he bent the knee.
Yes.
But because of this, now everybody knows.
Yeah, it seems even Tyrion, Hand of the
surprised.
Queen, was it caught him off guard.
Who actually advised Jon Snow to bend the knee was actually surprised that
Yeah.
he did. And nobody saw that whole exchange between Daenerys and Jon earlier on.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, because it happened in bed with one of them half naked.
Exactly.
So the interesting thing here for me is something more of a character motivation issue here, because from the start of the season we've heard one thing come out from Jon's mouth.
Yeah.
That none of these wars matter. The only thing that matters is the Great War.
Right.
The fight against the others. So why is it that at this point where Cersei is saying that, okay, this is my only condition.
Yeah.
Why don't they just stop, talk about it, and, make sure that you handle the threat? It's not that big of a demand that Cersei
Right.
is actually asking for.
Because, and they've never really been the aggressor in the first place.
Yes.
So all she was asking technically was, don't attack us while we're out fighting with you guys.
Yeah. So some of it doesn't make sense. This season has been criticized for not a lot of things making the most sense character-wise, but this is one of them. Although it's nice to see that everyone acknowledging that that this thing that Jon was doing is his inability to lie. Is Ned Stark.
It's an admirable thing. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so what happens? Cersei shuts down negotiations at that point.
Walks out.
And then Tyrion, the person that she probably hates the most right now, he has to go into her chambers where
Yeah.
he is unprotected and has to renegotiate.
And it was a one-on-one thing. For me, it was the emotional highlight of the entire episode.
Yeah.
There were bigger things that happened.
Yeah.
But I think having those two powerhouse actors there,
Yeah.
it really just worked. You could feel the tension. You could feel they wanted to kill each other,
Yeah.
but they couldn't. I hate that I'm related to you, but
Yeah.
I'm still related to you. We won't get into the full details of the conversation, but you could feel the crackling of the emotion and the energy between the two actors and the two characters, and it was amazing to watch.
Yeah, and there's always been this chemistry between Lena
Yes.
Headey and
Best-
Peter Dinklage.
It's just the best
And
ever.
it's funny how if you would notice the earlier seasons, their best scenes were always when they were bonding while drinking
Yeah.
wine together.
Yes.
And Tyrion tries to do that here. He pours
Mm-hmm.
himself a glass of wine, gives a glass of wine to Cersei, which actually
She doesn't touch.
she doesn't touch because it brings to the revelation that she's pregnant, and now
Mm-hmm.
Tyrion knows. Now, interestingly enough, the scene cuts out, and we don't actually know
Yes.
how that conversation
I mean,
ended.
we know the result, but we don't know how the conversation ended. As fiery as it was, we didn't actually know how it was resolved, which could play on later on
Yeah.
in the following season.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting. We're gonna touch upon a scene later in the episode, but there's a scene near the end of the episode where Tyrion gives this look that is maybe we can get into it then when we come up to it during our discussion. But there's this look where you're not quite sure what it means.
Yes.
And the fact that you never know what happened in that room, what the final word was in between Cersei and Tyrion in that room, it makes you
It
give
makes you
some
wonder.
thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so later on, also, we find out that Cersei was never planning on sticking to this truce.
Basically, she said that, yeah, okay, after Tyrion and I talked, I agree, let's band together against, the White Walkers. Turns out it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
She's going to double cross her allies.
Mhm.
And when Jamie finds out, there was a falling out.
Yeah.
And basically, he's saying, I just gave my word. Maybe you don't care about your word, but I care about mine. And basically, Cersei is like, my way or the highway.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
And in the end, Jamie, at least for now, for this episode, chose the highway.
yeah, and this is really interesting. It's a continuation of Jaime's redemption story.
Yes.
He is best known in Westeros as the Kingslayer, the Kingsguard who broke his oath to protect his king and actually was the one who killed it.
Yeah.
It's not just that he killed the king; it's that he was a member of the Kingsguard, sworn to
Exactly.
protect him. So the fact that now he's taking these oaths, these
Very
promises
seriously.
more seriously is very interesting. This is his redemption. He's coming over there. But again, interesting is well, if he is leaving right now, what's gonna happen the next time he sees Cersei?
And is it going to be just him? Is he bringing a small army, a big
Yeah.
army? The questions will be answered next season.
Okay.
Now let's jump to Winterfell,
Okay.
because I guess the big who dies this episode is answered here.
Yeah.
And I think this is the one where it's a surprise, but it's not a surprise.
Yeah.
A lot of people really felt the entire Arya versus Sansa thing was. I don't think anyone really believed it.
Yeah.
I mean, they were too close as sisters. I mean, they didn't get along with each other, but they are Starks.
Yeah.
Nobody really bought the whole I'm going to kill my sister drama that they
Yeah.
had. So I think everybody knew that in the end, it was a collusion between the sisters and to a degree, the brother, that they were really going to gang up on Littlefinger. And today was the day.
What I found that might need some interpretation was the previous episode we saw that weird scene between
Yes.
Arya and Sansa,
Many weird scenes.
where they were kind of threatening each
Yeah.
other. Did you think that was an act because they knew Littlefinger was watching, or do you think that Sansa came to the decision that Arya's the one to be trusted and Littlefinger was not, after that scene in this episode where Littlefinger was saying something like assume the worst about people,
Exactly.
right? What's the worst reason a person has to be able to say why they're saying what they're saying and doing what they're doing?
No, because I'm a little bit in the middle with this one. I think in general they know that they've always been on the same side. But I think the show needed that little look, we're enemies for
Yeah.
our sake.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but I really don't think that they seriously believed that they were going to kill each other.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Because I think the whole fighting thing was for the sake of, although there were no, I mean, Littlefinger was not exactly watching those scenes. It was for our sake to
Yeah.
make us believe that they
Yeah.
were fighting. But I don't know the percentage,
Yeah.
but I think they were always in on it, that they're not really fighting. They
Okay.
don't really plan to kill each other.
Okay.
So when that scene happened, the moment Arya walked in and said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" I knew
Yeah.
that what she meant was not,
Yeah.
"Are you sure you want to kill me?" but
Yeah.
more like, "Are you sure? Because I can kill Littlefinger anytime you want me to, but are you ready for this?"
Yeah. I think this plot line deservedly is the one of the weaker ones
Yeah.
this season. I think
Yeah.
fans weren't really buying it.
Don't get
And-
me wrong, I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, but
I really enjoyed it.
But precisely because I think they had to create artificial drama
Yes.
by keeping a lot
Yes.
of the scenes off screen.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what makes the plot line weak.
I mean,
And, you know,
obviously, when the entire trial was strengthened because of Bran.
Yeah.
So that the sisters talked to Bran already,
Yeah.
and we weren't in on it.
Yeah.
And so this happened off screen. We
Yeah.
just assumed that they probably had like a family tribal council.
Yeah.
They decided, Bran decided to reveal all
Yeah.
off camera. And I guess we're all as surprised, supposedly as surprised as Littlefinger.
Yeah, that reveal of that thing was kind of funny though.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you stand for these charges? Dot dot dot.
Yeah.
Lord Baelish.
Exactly.
Like if Sansa, if she just played it a little cheesier,
Yeah.
that could have gone. It would have been a funny scene.
Yeah.
And I think they acted it just right
Just right.
enough so it wouldn't veer a little too cheesy.
And we've been waiting for it long enough that we forgive the little cheesiness involved. Yeah. So that said, it was still one of the biggest events of this season because finally one of the most major players
Yes.
in Game of Thrones is gone.
And more importantly, now Winterfell is safe.
Yes.
Winterfell,
At least from
the
Littlefinger.
moment,
Yeah.
has no real threats.
Right.
Of course, we find out later on that there's a threat coming.
But we've
through.
always known that.
Yeah, but at the moment it's safe. And I love that they put in that line. This has been a line in the books we've been waiting for such a long time. The Ned Stark tells his children, "When the snows fall and the white winds blow, the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives."
That's
so if the Stark children are now taking this seriously,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they will, because for most of the show we haven't really seen them together.
Yeah, and we haven't had that satisfaction of seeing them bonding as a family.
Yeah, 'cause-
it's always been like protracted. It's always Bran being so emotionally distant,
Yeah.
Arya being all freaky,
Yeah.
Sansa being all, I'm Lady Winterfell,
Yeah, yeah.
follow whatever I say. So we've been thirsting for this, like,
Yes,
can we just have a
yes.
group hug and all be
Yes.
happy to see each other again?
Yeah, but you probably get that when Jon comes back
Exactly,
to Winterfell.
exactly.
If Jon comes back to Winterfell.
All right, so the next part is obviously it's the bomb that we have
Yes.
been waiting for,
Yes.
that we knew was there, but again, just like the Littlefinger, death, we've been waiting for it, but there's something about it actually happening.
Yeah, so this might be the most pivotal scene.
The most.
This has a lot of meaning for what this series means going forward. So it starts off, it's Samuel Tarly,
Right.
who we last saw leaving the Citadel,
Yes.
taking some restricted area books with him, something Maester Ebros probably wouldn't be so happy about. But he arrives in Winterfell, and he sees Bran, who he helps earlier in the series.
Exactly.
So they recognize each other, and the thing with these two characters is they hold some key pieces of
Yes.
information.
They are the ones who are not
Yeah.
they don't hold knives and
Yeah,
swords, but you know that they're going to play crucial parts in the story.
And now that they're together and having a conversation, something big happens.
Yes.
Okay.
So finally, R+L is
Was-
confirmed.
Yeah, 100% confirmed.
100% confirmed.
Yeah.
They're calling it Bran's position because, usually a lot of the writers
Yeah.
don't like it when everything is just given to you spoon-fed.
Yeah.
But in this case, I guess because we've waited for it so long,
Yeah.
everyone still had goosebumps, even if it was like literally, you were like, it was like one bomb after another,
Yeah.
after another, after another, courtesy of Bran,
Yeah.
who sees everything. So we take his word for it.
Yeah.
And it was just exhilarating to finally get confirmation.
Yeah, so we get that confirmation. Yeah, remember that little detail that Gilly tells Sam when they were talking about this annulment
Yeah.
of Rhaegar's wedding, of Rhaegar's marriage,
Of our Rhaegar's.
of a Rhaegar's
She
marriage
didn't even
to,
say,
Elia.
this
Yeah.
is, Rhaegar Targaryen.
Yes.
She even mispronounces his name.
Yeah. So Sam slips that little detail to Bran, who actually doesn't know that detail yet.
Yeah.
So now that he knows it, Sam
Initially,
says,
he said
Yeah.
he was John Sand
Yeah.
instead of Snow because
Yeah.
of Dorne.
But that important detail of whether or not he is legitimate, Bran checks into the past
Yeah.
after he hears it. Sam asks him, can you make sure of this?
I mean, we Google,
Yeah.
Bran goes back in time.
Yeah, Bran goes back in time, actually watches the wedding ceremony of Rhaegar Targaryen, who looks almost
Like
exactly like
Viserys.
Viserys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A
and-
dead ringer for Viserys.
Yeah, and Lyanna Stark. So we get the confirmation Jon is not only the son of Rhaegar and Lyanna, he is a true-born Targaryen,
And legitimate.
the legitimate heir to the Iron Throne. Maybe even a better claim than Dany does.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And we also get to hear for the first time
Yes.
his real name.
Yes.
Aegon
It's
Targaryen.
So we'll get into that later. But I think the funniest thing that you will see in this episode is the fact that as they are talking about Jon being a legitimate trueborn Targaryen heir to the Iron Throne,
Right.
they show him knocking and then entering into the chambers of Daenerys.
He entered the chamber of Daenerys and he entered the chamber of Daenerys.
In more ways than one.
Yeah.
So they have some nephew anti-sex.
Yes, which should be
Yeah.
child's play, given that we've had brother-sister sex all this time.
But it's so interesting that they chose to do it this way. That while they are doing it, Brand's voiceover continues.
Exactly. It's almost as if to say, yep, he's Targaryen.
And yes, they're doing it right now.
Yes,
Yeah, like
he's Targaryen.
You should, yeah. So it's a very interesting scene. I think that they could have showed that that love scene between Jon and Dany separately of this, but the fact that they do it juxtaposed. I mean,
Right.
it's not even one scene and the next. It's part of that
because I
that
think
Bran scene.
because I think also they needed to underline that this was not just a love story.
Yes.
You know, them consummating their feelings for each other. It's not just a love story we're talking about. We're talking about two kingdoms. We're talking about false identities. We're talking about secrets that were held for years.
Yeah.
There was just too much hinging on these two personalities that them having sex transcends
Yeah.
just the emotions, and I guess they had to juxtapose it that, you know what, it's not as simple as you think.
Yeah.
It's not one of those you're shipping these two
Exactly,
people. Now finally they're doing it. Nope. There are so many like
There's baggage.
there's baggage to this.
attached to
There
this,
is
for sure.
there are way too many implications
Yeah.
to them having sex.
Yeah, and I mean, if we can speculate about next season, if Jon and Dany finds out this detail about Jon's true heritage or Aegon's true heritage, what does it mean for their relationship?
Exactly.
What
I
does
mean-
it mean for the the alliance? Like,
Yeah,
who gets the
because
Iron
for
Throne?
Dany, I'm sure it's like she thought she was going to marry her brother.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. I think this is a bigger deal for Jon.
Yeah, who
because
was
Jon
raised as a Stark.
is not a Targaryen. He's not used to these things. I
Yeah.
think it'll be a bigger issue for him.
Yeah.
Dany will probably be like, okay, so I'm marrying my nephew, not my brother.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that big a
And,
leap.
and he's kind, and he's maybe a little too short for that.
I know.
like she mentions, but
And just going
yeah.
back to the Aegon Targaryen,
Yeah.
they might be thinking, how come it's Aegon Targaryen again? Well, apparently it's a very common name. It was
for Targaryens.
for
at
Targaryens.
least, yeah.
So you had Aegon the Targaryen, the first
Yeah,
Targaryen
so
king.
So if we go back, there have been I think 5 kings
Yeah.
before Jon, who was King Aegon.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the first one is Aegon the Conqueror.
The OG.
Yeah, the one who rode in with 3 dragons
Yes.
and 2 sister wives.
And the Mad King's father is also an Aegon.
yes.
And then Rhaegar already had a son
Yes.
named Aegon Targaryen.
Remember that kid that the Mountain murders in the sack of King's Landing, which is why Oberyn Martell
Freaked
is
out.
so angry when he comes to King's Landing
Was
and
also
and
an
duels
Aegon
the Mountain.
Targaryen.
Yeah, one of those kids, the younger one, is an Aegon Targaryen, the son of Rhaegar and Elia Martell.
Yeah, so I guess it's no big deal. I guess like in English royalty, you will always have like a King Edward the 12th.
Yeah,
or like the
and
popes.
like
It's just,
even in Stark history, they
Yeah.
have a lot of Brandons in the
Exactly.
Stark line. So
Exactly.
Aegon is a Targaryen name. Very interesting. A lot of history behind that name.
Mhm.
So it's interesting to see what happens to Jon or Aegon or whatever we want to
Yeah.
call him in the future.
So,
Aegon.
yeah. So I guess,
next season, yeah.
For now, I guess we're trying to. I think the showrunners are trying to clear all of this
Yeah.
before we enter the Great War.
Yeah.
So it's a done deal. It's R plus L equals J. It's confirmed.
Yeah, and then the interesting though that before we end this particular sequence, you see Tyrion, as we mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Tyrion is creeping around outside the hallway
With
of
a
that
weird
bedchamber
expression.
with a very weird
Like
expression.
it's sad and worried and anxious
Yeah.
all at the same time.
Yeah.
And people are wondering why.
Yeah.
Is it one? He's in love with Daenerys.
Yeah.
You know how like he's been stopping her every time. He convinced her to shoo Jorah away.
Yes.
He convinced her to leave Dario Naharis in Marine.
Yeah.
He was the one who was trying to stop her to fetch Jon Snow when they were trapped by the White Walkers. So is he in love?
Yeah.
But another version is he made a yet undisclosed deal with Cersei, and this pairing up, whatever it is that decision was, could be jeopardized because of it.
Yeah, this is why it's so important that we didn't get to see the ending
Yes.
of that negotiation between Cersei and Tyrion. Yeah, another thing that might be interesting to think about is that, remember a few episodes back, he was the one bugging Daenerys about succession.
Succession, yeah.
Like, he was asking, you said you can't have children. Who takes over after you're gone? And Dany was quick to shut that down. She was like, we'll talk about this when we win.
Yeah.
This is not the time to discuss this, which, it might be a little bit of counting chickens before you hatch. But was Tyrion counting on being the successor?
Yeah.
Was he counting on being a future king of Westeros himself?
And not just that, there are certain theories abounding about Cersei's kid. Was that part of the discussion when Tyrion found out that Cersei was going to have a child? If it's true that she is pregnant, that maybe he put that in the pot.
Yeah.
If you help us, I will help your child be the next.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah,
but
who knows?
the point is,
the other thing,
it was meant to be cryptic. That confused expression on his face.
The other possibility being, when Tyrion was asking about succession, remember he brought up the cases of like the Night's Watch, where they do an elective kind of thing. He's the one who was also asking Daenerys about, how do we make sure that once you break the wheel stays broken. And maybe he's seeing that, if these guys have children, the wheel is gonna keep turning on. The next king will be the child of Jon and Daenerys.
And again,
and he wants to make sure that doesn't happen.
This is another product of inbreeding.
Yeah.
Again. All right. So, of course, the finale is, there are so many highlights.
Yes.
Littlefinger. You have the confirmation, and then of course, finally, the Night King comes out from just like Daenerys, comes out from the forest. On top of Viserion, and then here comes the question: will he be breathing ice or blue fire? It's confirmed. It's blue fire.
It's blue fire. So, for me, I think this might have been the biggest spectacle that this show, given that this is Game of Thrones with a huge budget that I don't think any other TV show has had before. This is the biggest spectacle we've seen them try.
It was perfectly shot. It was dark, but you see everything that's happening. It was creepy. You had a feeling of dread.
Yes.
Just watching it. It was amazing. They should be given high garden amount of awards. Of gold. For coming out with that end scene. It was amazing.
Narratively, we've always felt safe knowing that the wall was there.
Yeah.
And now here's this dragon who just burns it down. So, an amazing visual scene. Watching it is just great. But again, this means so much going. We see the White Walkers, even the giants. They're crossing that wall now. And we've been talking about before how the wall probably has some magic, some enchantments that's supposed to keep the White Walkers out.
Yeah.
I think that dragon fire just took it all away.
It's gone.
Yeah.
So I guess it perfectly sets up. Despite all the criticism for this season, I think they set up the final season just right, because now everything has been cleared. All the other not as important parts have been more or less resolved. So now we just concentrate on how do the living fight the dead.
Yeah.
I
think that's where we are really with this show right now.
Yeah.
Yes, it deserves some criticism. Yes, the writing isn't quite as meticulous as
you would
to
have
be.
wanted.
Yes, there are plot holes here and there.
Yes, we would have preferred 10 episodes instead of 7.
But I think if you look at that big blueprint that George Martin gave the showrunners, they're going to hit all of the notes that they have to, and that's satisfying for me. How did you like this season as a whole?
I've heard all of the gripes,
Yeah.
the criticism.
Yeah, let's parrot some back now.
Okay, so
Yeah.
basically they were saying, after the books were done,
Yeah.
you could feel,
Yeah.
the grasping for straws, and suddenly
Yeah.
characterization is out the window,
Yes.
pacing is out the window,
Yeah.
a lot of logic is out the window,
Yeah.
and basically what they're giving us is fan service after fan service, regardless of the sacrifices that the narrative has to make.
Yes,
Which is
yes.
maybe it's not as believable, maybe it doesn't make as much sense.
Yeah.
But for me, my general assessment for it is that you know how like the investment that the past 6 seasons put in were enough for you to still appreciate
Yeah.
the payback.
Yeah.
So now that we're getting all the payback, you're seeing all the reunions, you're seeing all the revelations, you're seeing all the things that we've been waiting for.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could have been done better, but because of the investment that the first excellent seasons put in, I was very satisfied.
Yeah.
I mean, like I felt like I ate a huge meal. It could have been more nutritious. It could have been more delicious, but you feel in the end, after that final scene,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm good. I
Yeah.
can wait an extra year and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt satisfied.
Yeah.
It didn't give me that crap. I'm wanting more.
Yeah.
So for me, as a fan, I just love that it satisfied what needed satisfying.
Yeah.
And yeah, we can gripe about it could have been done better this way. It could have been, and we agree. We agree that it could have. But for me, I loved and enjoyed this season immensely, and I loved seeing all the stuff that we've been waiting for.
Yeah. You and I have had this conversation before, and I think what I was saying about my feelings about this season was really the fact that without the book serving as an anchor for
Yeah.
this story, now you can see what the showrunners are good at and what they're bad at.
And you
Right.
you have a better appreciation of GRRN.
Earlier in the series, the narrative of the book that George Martin writes, it covered up for a lot of the weaknesses of the showrunners, and combining that with what they do well,
Yeah.
made for just an amazing show. Not just a show; it's a cultural phenomenon at this point. And now that you don't have the anchor, you can see that okay. I think the second to the last episode, episode 6, Beyond the Wall, I think that showcased really. You can see there the best of Game of Thrones
And
and
the
the worst
worst.
of Game of
Yeah.
Thrones in the same episode. There are a lot of plot holes. There are a lot of time issues. Timeline issues, but also the sheer spectacle, the visual, the powers of the visuals that they can create.
Yeah.
It's all still there. So it's interesting. I heard from someone recently about Game of Thrones that you can love something, love a show, and still acknowledge that it's bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'm not saying it's bad. It certainly has slipped in quality a little bit these past few seasons. But you know what? At the end of the day, I still love this show.
Exactly.
I ever since I watched the first season, it went to its break, and then I picked up all of the available books for the Song of the Ice and Fire series, tore through all of them before the second season. I'm in love with the series. I'm in love with the books and the show. So I'm in it to the end.
Exactly. So just to wrap things up, I think we all agree if we hated this season so much, I guess the question is, do you want to watch the final season? Are you excited about it? If that were the case, then I guess I love the season because I cannot
Yeah.
wait for the final season
Yeah.
to see how they finally end it. If I'm going nuts with this specific season, I
Yeah.
can't wait for the last one.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while before the last one
yeah,
comes.
Yeah.
But
2019,
still,
they say.
I think the biggest reason why you would want to watch it right now is because even if you'd rather wait for the books to come out and have it end there, Facebook is gonna spoil it for
Yeah.
you. There's no way that you're not gonna find out how that next season ends if you're on social media. So yeah, I mean, for sure people are gonna be watching the final season. They're expecting it when 2019.
2019, they say.
Yeah, that's a long time to
It's
wait.
not confirmed though by HBO, but they're just saying, given that they don't get to start until October of this year,
Yeah.
and the massive amount of effects that they're going to
Yeah.
need, they were saying it will take at least a year. So that means it would be at least until October
Yeah.
of next year
Okay.
at the fastest.
You're right.
So can you imagine? And I doubt if they can finish everything all post-prod in a year's time.
Yeah.
So obviously it will bleed into 2019.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully that extra time that they have allows them to fix a lot of the
I hope so.
Although, I think that this season provides a decent enough benchmark for us.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it doesn't have to match like season 1, season 2 peak Game of Thrones, the final season.
Because the bar is high.
Yeah.
The
But-
bar is very high.
But if it can be as good or better than this one,
Yeah.
I think that counts as sticking the landing.
All right, so what about you guys? Remember, these are just the ones that, these are two people.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everyone has their own call.
Yeah.
Did you like it? Did you not like it?
Yeah.
What were the highlights for you? Did we miss something that you feel is actually worth discussing?
Yeah, especially
tell us all about it.
in a season as divisive as this
Yes.
one. We want to hear what everybody thinks about it.
So there's a comment section. You can just put it there, whatever it is that you
Yeah.
feel, we missed out on, or something that you just want to chime in. Feel free
Yeah.
to comment in the comment section below. All right, so there you go. That's our little recap of Game of Thrones, the finale, the season finale. Please subscribe to The Rule of Nerds. Of course, that's on YouTube, but also check out our social media accounts, The Rule of Nerds, on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Now, for our individual accounts, you can follow me at Chico Garcia on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
And you can follow me at M_Volante on Twitter and JM_Volante on Instagram. Nerds out!
Here we go.